We are back. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Bermas sitting in. We're going to go to Bob Chapman in just a moment, but I want to finish up on this Nixon story. Just the headline right here, how Nixon gave 10 Kennedy bodyguards to spy on his personal life. So, Ted Kennedy never stepped up to the plate, never said my brothers were murdered. We need to get to the bottom of this. Just kind of rode out a Senate career, tried to run for president at one point. Nixon considered Ted Kennedy such a threat that he tried to catch him cheating on his wife, even ordering aides to plant Secret Service bodyguards to spy on the senator's behavior. And when he pulled Secret Service protocol, he said, I don't give a damn if he gets shot. Mr. Chapman, how are you this morning?
Well, fine, thank you.
I want to talk.
How are you?
I am good. I want to get into this FDIC talking about their own bailout, just putting up a list of the top 400 banks that are toxic, that they seem these banks aren't going to be around much longer. I mean, what is your take on this?
Well, my take has been for about 2 years ago, I projected that out of 8,400 banks, that approximately 40 to 50% would go under. So that would be from about 3,200, 3,300, all the way up to over 4,000. And now they're talking about 80 banks or 70, whatever it is. And, what they've been doing on the side is absorbing smaller banks, particularly little ones, into the big banking system, and they're not telling anybody about it. So, the XYZ Bank in Littletown, America, had its sign changed last week to ABC Bank of New York or something. And people say, well, as long as my money's safe, I don't care. One of the things that is to go along with that is that the FDIC doesn't have any money. Interesting the way they get their money. They get it from the banks. The banks pay it into the general fund, and then as the FDIC uses it, they request funds from the general fund, which are meted out to them. Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security do the same thing. But anyway, they probably got about $10 billion, but they have committed themselves on unsecured loans of $368 billion. And when Sheila Bair was asked about it, she kind of forgot to answer. There was. I saw her on, I don't know, it was ABC. It's in the next issue, incidentally, tomorrow. It's a link, and she didn't answer that, but she kind of frowned when the question was asked. But she's pretty honest, and she doesn't seem to be too political, and she's very bright. And the bottom line is this. About 3 months ago, she informally asked the Treasury Department to talk to Congress about getting her $500 billion. Now, to put that into perspective, 70 to 75% of all the deposits are held by 4 banks. Most people don't know that. Mm-hmm. Secondly, the same banks that hold these deposits are essentially bankrupt. Mm-hmm. Now, to cover 1% of all of the money under $250,000 in the accounts at all the banks, they would need $700 billion. So, as you can see, there's virtually no coverage for FDIC. They don't have the money. Mm-hmm. And even if they got $700 billion, they would only have enough money to cover the 1% of people who have deposits, besides bailing the banks out.
So what happens here? I mean, you just talked about how the 4 banks have 75% of this debt. Now, these are the big banks. These banks aren't going to go under. Most people don't realize that. They're going to swallow up these small banks. But what happens? I mean, this is obviously a consolidation of power. We're obviously seeing the big banks gaining more and more power as the small banks go under. But what happens if the FDIC fails?
Nobody gets anything.
It's just done. It's beyond a bank holiday is what you're telling me.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't think it's imminent now, but it'll happen sometime in the next few years. And when? Probably 2 to 2.5 years from now, when inflation, hyperinflation craps out and deflation takes over and the insiders decide that now's the time to pull a plug on everybody. And that's why I was just going to say, it's so important. You don't have more than 3 months operating expenses in the bank. You get $5,000 at home in your safe and small bills. You get rid of all of your investments in the stock market except gold and silver shares. You get out of your bonds. You get out of your cash values and insurance policies and annuities, and you put the money into gold and silver-related assets.
Well, why do you think that they're announcing this, though? I mean, obviously, that's the way to protect yourself, is to get gold and silver, and Midas Resources is a great way to do this. But why are they trying to soften the public up right now to warm them up to the idea that the FDIC is over? Or what is this? Why are they admitting that essentially the FDIC has no money as of today?
Well, they're admitting it because they have to admit it under the law.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with the Federal Reserve. I saw Bonnie Frank at a town hall type of meeting. I think it was in Taunton, Massachusetts,
mm-hmm.
and it's part of his constituency. And Frank might be a lot of things, but he's not stupid. And he said at the very end of the conversation, because somebody asked about 1207,
mm-hmm.
the bill to investigate and audit the Federal Reserve, he says it will be passed next month.
Really? He actually admitted that this bill is going to go through the Senate. That's interesting, because I don't know if you saw the clip of Geithner being asked about 1207 and auditing the Fed, but he just parrots the same exact talking points that Bernanke parrots, that this can't be political and that the Fed is already transparent and it has oversight by Congress. But then if there's so much oversight by Congress, how did this bill, 1207, push through Congress so quickly?
Because I think it's the... I can't forget who does the oversight, but I saw the woman who does it, and she didn't know anything about anything, and she was interrogated in the House, and it was really pathetic. I mean,
so basically, they relegate that to just one or two constituents. It's not truly the Congress that has oversight; it's one person that they've appointed in the Congress who supposedly has oversight.
Yeah, but I think it's the Comptroller General's office or something like that. But anyway, the point is this. I think they're going to try to change the bill
mm-hmm.
so it's not as onerous. And we'll see. But we're going to get action. And
mm-hmm.
it could be a major turning point for us. And the exposure of what people are doing and within the Fed and the connections. And we'll get to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the most important thing that the Fed that the elitists have, and it's the Federal Reserve. And in any way that we can block it from doing what they're doing and take power away from them, it gives us a better chance of overcoming the problems we've got. We got to stop them from telling the banks, lend as much money as you want, not 8 to 10 times, 50 times, and they did. And that's why we got the problem. And they're the ones who are supposed to be solving when they cause it in the first place, and we get to pay for it, $23.7 trillion.
And that was last month's number. Do you foresee some kind of a similar bailout for the FDIC somewhere where they announce that we are going to loan the FDIC, $700 billion or $1 trillion, and then that money will again multiply beyond what we can even comprehend? Is that what's going to happen with this?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Well, what do you think that they're going to announce? Are they going to say, well, we're going to give them such and such money and then just allow them to print carte blanche as much cash as possible? Where do you see this going? I mean, is this going to be in the House? Is this going to be an emergency a week from now?
It has to.
Mm-hmm.
It has to go to Congress, and Congress will okay it. It's just like if they want to have a second program for stimulus, and they want $1 trillion or $2 trillion or whatever they want, Congress will pass it.
It's unbelievable to me.
It's better than having a depression. They just don't want to have to face the music like everybody behind the scenes, all the bureaucrats from the revolving door out of Wall Street to Washington.
Do you imagine that they're going to, pull something similar to the way that they did last year, where they just say, look, it's over, and then all of a sudden if you don't pass this, guys, martial law is going to happen in the United States. Are they going to be threatening congressmen again? I mean, are we at that level?
I don't think they'll have to. I think they'll pass it anyway. And if they don't, or if they're not going to, then they will take out the sharp knives and say, look, everybody in your constituency is going to be unemployed because the real unemployment, whisper, behind the scenes is 20.8% right now. Let's say it was right now. Mm-hmm. And your constituency is going to be around 32 to 35% in about 6 months. Now, do you want to pass this thing or don't you?
Well, let's talk about that. What is the unemployment rate? Because we're seeing in mainstream reports it's somewhere around 10 or 11%, but that has got to be a lowball number.
9.4.